So we've assembled a little bit of an FAQ. So I will ask you the first question, Joe, and you can give folks the short answer because figuring out all these rules, deciphering all these rules is going to take some time. It's taken us some time to get to this point. So what attractions are covered by Lightning Lane Multipass? We've named some of them, but what should folks expect to be covered?
Yeah, so I always think it's easier to think about what's not covered by multipass. The huge one to think about is character meet and greets are no longer covered by Lightning Lane Multipass. So no character meet and greet has multipass. It's standby only for everything. So that has a big effect at Magic Kingdom for, just kind of the usefulness. Actually, now that I think about it, if it costs the same, that's definitely a devaluation of the overall product, even though you can book in advance. So no character meet and greets on there. And then at every park, there is an attraction or two that doesn't have multipass. It's some of our favorite attractions, like People Mover at Magic Kingdom, Grand Fiesta Tour at Epcot. But, in the end, these are attractions that the standby line moves quite quickly, quite well. Living by the Land, honestly, probably does not need to have multipass, but, they got to put something on there. So, just know that not every single attraction is going to have it. Another one that people may want to ride is Astro Orbiter at Magic Kingdom. No multipass for that either. But the attractions that don't have multipass are few and far between. And then a lot of them are like shows like Tiki Room, Carousel of Progress, etc.
That's right. So all in, there are about 50 attractions, mostly traditional rides that are included in Lightning Lane Multipass. They're not distributed equally among the parks. There are a lot more at Magic Kingdom than there are at Animal Kingdom. But of course, it's priced accordingly. Like we mentioned, the price range, $15 to $39 right now. Magic Kingdom is always on the upper end of that spectrum. Animal Kingdom is always on the lower end of that spectrum. And you buy the price for the park that you're starting in. So even if you start in Animal Kingdom and pay that cheap price and you have a park hopper, you don't pay any more when you start to use Lightning Lane Multipass in other parks that same day. So that's something we ought to flag.
Yes, actually, that's one of our FAQs, which is how does the price of multipass work with park hopping? And you just answered it, Leslie. You always pay the price of your first park. If you have a park hopper, you can use the multipass at the next parks after you are at least tapped into the first attraction at the first park. And we should say that, like old school park reservations, they are very serious about you got to tap in to at least one attraction in the park you started with first. Otherwise, you got to talk to like a Blue Umbrella or something and then pay the price of the park that you're trying to hop to. So there's no hacks there that we know of, at least, where you can pay the Animal Kingdom price and not go to Animal Kingdom at all. So we should say that. All right, next question. Important question, Leslie. Multipass gives you these 1 hour windows, like from 2 to 3 o'clock or from 4:30 to 5:30 when you're supposed to go to the attraction. Is there wiggle room? Is there a grace period for the times that you can actually get into the attraction?
Yes, there is. At Walt Disney World, you can enter a Lightning Lane up to 5 minutes early. The scanners will automatically recognize that Lightning Lane, and you shouldn't encounter any sort of friction from cast members and just go straight on. And then currently, up to 119 minutes, 2 hours essentially, you have to scan in late, and the scanners should turn green. This can change. We should mention that Disneyland only has a 15-minute grace period, so 119 minutes at Walt Disney World is pretty generous. And there is, again, human intervention that can help. If you miss a Lightning Lane because you have a kid who has a diaper explosion and you have to go back to your hotel room, talk to a cast member at a Blue Umbrella. They usually can work something out, or the cast member even at the attraction may just wave you right in. So there are grace periods, but don't abuse this. I mean, that's the bottom line. They recognize at Disney that things happen, especially when you're traveling with small kids.
For sure. And they're not going to say the 119 minutes out loud. We just know that from experience. I think if you were to press them for how long you have, they might say there's a 15-minute grace period. And this was true in the Genie Plus days. We never talked about the 119 minutes in the Genie Plus days, but at this point, there's been so much evidence that it'll start when Leslie says, just in case you're not a Disney regular, when Leslie says it turns green, when you actually tap your ticket media to the Mickey head, when it turns green, that just means go, and then the cast member just lets you through without looking at anything. If it turns blue, then the cast member has to like have an interaction with you, and it never turns red because Disney's never that negative. But that's kind of how it works. So if you get there within 119 minutes, it's going to turn green. You're going to go right through, no friction at all. Okay, next question. Really quickly, can you modify lightning lanes? Yes, we discussed that already, and we think you should. I have been messing with my lightning lanes. I still can't get a morning lightning lane on this fake day that I'm going to, but I hope springs eternal. I'm going to try to get a morning lightning lane before this episode comes out. Of course, you'll never know, but you should keep trying to modify. And even if you can't modify to the morning, at least you can modify to times that are better for you. Okay. How many people can you book for a party, Leslie?
You can book up to a max of 12 people at one time. So that you can have a pretty big group, but not a massive family reunion, I guess. All right, that was an easy one. Next question's for you, Joe. Can you have 2 lightning lanes booked for the same time? We started to touch on this, but like give the definitive answer.
You can definitely have overlap. You probably can't have, or we haven't seen evidence that you can have 2 attractions for the same time, 2 to 3 p.m., but you can have like a bit of an overlap so that you're not waiting an hour until your next attraction. So you can kind of pseudo stack. Stacking is a term that came up in the Genie Plus days. I can't book them all for the same exact 1 hour window, but I can stagger them like 20 minutes, 30 minutes apart. So I can move pretty quickly there.
And I should asterisk this as well, Joe, because this is true for pre-booking. You can only have some overlap. For real-time, like 4th and 5th bookings, it does seem to be that you can have much more overlap. So this is really more something to keep in mind for that 7 days in advance, 3 days in advance. Once you're in the park, it's a bit more of a free-for-all in terms of what you can overlap.
Once again, tap into that first attraction, unlock these extra features, or just, they just cancel most of the rules when you do that. Next question is, do you have to buy Lightning Lane Multi-Pass or Lightning Lane Single Pass? No, you do not. It's important to know that A, you don't need to buy either. B, you don't need to buy one to get the other. You can either get Multi-Pass or Single Pass. And then C, at Disney World, if you have 5 days of tickets, you can buy Multi-Pass on 3 days, and you don't have to do the same thing for every single day. And so it's just day by day, you make the decision. Every day in your trip, you decide, do I want multi-pass? Yes or no? Do I want any single passes? Yes or no?
Yeah, exactly. It really is quite flexible in terms it really is quite flexible in terms of how you customize each day of your vacation. All right, Joe, what happens if a ride that you have pre-booked with Lightning Lane Multi-Pass breaks? What happens if it's down for whatever reason, it's raining or it's not working at the moment?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is you're going to get what's called a multi-experience pass, and that's going to be loaded into your My Disney Experience. Again, everything's automatically connected to your tickets, and that is going to give you the chance to use at multiple attractions at any time during the day. And that's the best part of the multi-experience pass. You don't have to worry about times, grace periods, any of that nonsense. You can do it at any time. Depending on which ride broke down, that's going to determine which attractions you can use it for. So rule of thumb, not exactly 100%, but decent rule of thumb, if a tier 1 multi-pass goes down, you're going to get a multiple experience pass that pretty much covers everything in the park that you are in. If there's a tier 2, then it's probably going to be mostly tier 2s. Sometimes there are some like sub tiers within there. It's not worth it in this episode to go through every single nuance. Not that we even know every single nuance, but rule of thumb, tier 1 attraction, you get a multi-experience for that. You can use that for anything. Tier 2 attraction, you're not going to be able to get. Let me put it this way. If Disney Junior Play breaks down, you're not going to be able to use that on Slinky Dog Dash, quite obviously. The other thing to mention is if you do have a park hopper and let's say a tier 1 attraction breaks down on you and you are planning to park hop, you can talk to a Blue Umbrella and see if they can give you a multi-experience pass for something in the park that you're hopping to. So ask, see what they can do for you. And, the worst they can say is no.
Exactly. So another question we've started to touch on, but haven't fully answered for folks. If an attraction that you want to book with Lightning Lane Multi-Pass is sold out, not available left for the day, are you out of luck? Are you not going to get to ride that ride at Walt Disney World on that day?
Well, for starters, unless it's a virtual queue attraction, you can always stand by which, so there's always that option. I know it's tough to imagine in this day and age, Leslie, for you and me to wait and stand by for something. But yes, you can always wait and stand by for it. But I think what we've seen with multipass, Disney has always kind of released availability during the day, on the day of, for FastPass, for Genie Plus, for all these things. What we've seen for multipass is it does seem like they're actually holding more inventory back and dropping like a little bit more on the day of. And so what it comes down to and what it boils down to is keep checking your app. You never know what attraction can show up, what can be there. Actually, a few days ago, I got an email from Standby Skipper that says they're up and running. Still can't believe that Disney hasn't shut that down. Haven't gotten to test that again yet, but I bet you Standby Skipper, if you have it running a search for you in the background, they would be able to pick up, the kind of term people use is drops. But the concept is Disney, over the course of a day, will release inventory for lightning lanes for a certain attraction. Keep checking your app and you should be able to pick it up. And maybe even Standby Skipper is back. And if you want to hear our Standby Skipper episode, I'm guessing it's going to work pretty similarly to how it worked with Genie Plus. You can check out episode 309. We talked about my experience with Standby Skipper then. Anything else to add about missing availability beforehand and trying to get it the day of?
Well, I think we'll have to save it for our 201 episode because this is definitely part of the strategy to maximizing Lightning Lane Multipass is doing this refreshing, doing this work, trying to find new inventory, figuring out how it fits into your day. And this will change and develop. Like you say right now in these early days of Lightning Lane Multipass, we suspect that Disney is holding back quite a bit of inventory, and that may change as seasons change, as we get into a busier time of year around the holidays, and as people get better at using these systems. And Disney, of course, uncovers whatever bugs they need to fix. So stay tuned. And when you and I use this for 201, we will be talking about this much more.